So in the last video, we took a look at adding labels and control sticks to our beams and to our fixtures in order to see them a little better and visualize the channel numbers and where the beams are headed. Let's talk now about using the Edit tool. Inside Augment 3D, not only can we manipulate the actors and the lights, but we can also manipulate the 3D space. Now be careful, because inside this editor, you can actually change the show file, including the walls, the positions of the lights, and the hanging positions. We don't necessarily want to do that, but there is some really fun stuff in here that we can do. So I'm going to turn my work lights up a little bit, just so we can see the whole space for a minute. And inside the space, we have our 3D model person, and I've added a pyramid and a sphere. ETC has also given us a lot of really fun stuff that we can use over here on this left tab. Once you have clicked the edit button in the top right, you shift into your edit mode and you can select the wall. Be careful, because again, the environment is selectable and you can manipulate it and pull it apart. We don't want to do that. But let's say I want to move my model. Once I'm inside the editor, I can click on my model, and you notice we get 3 handles. Those handles are for the X-axis, the Y-axis, and the Z-axis. This is probably the best way for you to move your model, is by grabbing the axis handles and sliding it this way using the red handle, and grabbing the green handle to slide it on the Y-axis, and then grabbing the X handle to move it up. I'm sorry, the Z handle to move it up on the Z-axis. You can grab the model and sort of free-form move it around, but it's a little easier to actually grab the handles to find a more determined movement. If I want to move my pyramid, I can click on my pyramid, and again, slide it on the Y, slide it on the X, slide it on the Z, until it's wherever I want it to be in the model. Notice it will also sink underneath the floor, so you have to be careful you're not accidentally burying your 3D objects underneath the floor. When you're done moving things around, click Done, and it'll ask you, do you want to keep the changes or throw them away? I'm going to keep the changes, and it'll take me back to the standard screen for augmented. So let me shift back here to my camera number 1, which is my preferred view. I can also go back into the edit mode, and I can add things that ETC has given me to play around with in a 3D environment. If you slide over here to this menu and click on stock, they've added lots of groovy stuff in here that might be similar to what we would use in a show or in a production. There's architecture, furniture, musical objects, outdoors, people, shapes, etc., etc. Also, there's other venues that we can explore. In this case, let's add some architecture. Let's say we want to mimic our set for a show and create a set environment to light. So I'm going to choose, I don't know, a wall with a doorway. I'm going to click it and highlight it. I'm going to hold down click, and then I'm going to drag it into the 3-dimensional space. It's going to place it in the 3-dimensional space for me. And like I showed you before, it's going to add the X, Y, and Z handles. So now I can create a door. And if I want to rotate it, it gives me handles that allow me to rotate it, again, by grabbing the X, Y, and Z and rotating it in 3-dimensional space until it's oriented in a way that it might be for the show, right? I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to add a, what are we going to add? I'm going to add some stairs. I'm going to grab some stairs, and I'm going to drag them and drop them into my 3D model. I want to move it around, so I'm going to click the move option, and I'm going to not move it up and down, but I'm going to move it X, and I'm going to move it Y, And I'm going to imagine that this door goes into another room in which there are stairs that come up. And I'm going to slide this guy a little over to center, right? So that's maybe my scenery. I then want to think about, well, how does my scene look, or how does this cue look for my scene? And maybe my person, my actor here, is actually standing in the doorway. So I'm going to click on my person and I'm going to slide him over to in the doorway, and I'm going to X, Y, and Z them. That's Z. I don't want Z. Let me zoom in here a little bit. And let me actually rotate around. I'm going to go to my camera look. I'm going to go to the side so I can see a little better where they're positioned. And I want my person just coming through the doorway. I'm going to rotate them around until they're facing the right way. Then I'm going to move them again a little bit here. And notice how I'm getting these really terrific shadows that are going to be part of my lighting design. You go back to my first camera here. And now I've set up a three-dimensional environment that might be actually true to our scenery or to our show. We can import 3D files until an actual representation, a 3D model of our actual scenery is in there. And when we're finished making changes, I can click done and yes. And now I can turn my work lights off and I have a highly theatrical look of what that set might look like in our show. And I can change colors to change the effect of what my lighting might look like and make design decisions in a 3D virtual space to get the look that I might want my audience to see. Right. That's a little bit more about the edit palette inside Augmented.